Friends, welcome to SPDM TV. My name is Mike, part of the SPDM crew, and I watch a lot of TV. We talk about various TV topics, reviews, and general appreciation of TV past and new. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Serialized at MLHT2452 to see what all I'm watching. This week, let's do a rundown of some shows that have started recently, some that have ended recently, and some that are kind of progressing through. Let's start with a couple shows that have recently ended, and I think ironically enough, they're all medical shows. Let's start with Shrinking Season 3, which just ended a couple of weeks ago. Actually, yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago. So, a couple of thoughts that kind of come to mind when it comes to the end of Shrinking Season 3. I think that Harrison Ford does a phenomenal job of conveying that his time is coming to an end, both his time at work, his time with his core group of friends, because spoilers for everything that we're talking about. We've got Harrison Ford retiring from his and ostensibly selling his practice, or at least the rights to the building, to Gabby, who is throughout the course of the season has had a bit of a situation with one of her patients taking their life. So she is not sure if she could be the crisis counselor that she ultimately wants to be. But then at the same time, she wants to turn the center that her, Jimmy, and Paul work at into more of a crisis center versus just a cognitive therapy facility. So Paul approves this. He wants her to take over the practice, kind of do her own thing, whereas Jimmy kind of gets left in the dust for this, and he's not even asked about it. But I think where I struggled with the end of this season is that every season has ended kind of the same way. Jimmy crashes out somehow. And I think this time around, we at least see like Jimmy crashes out for like a different reason other than, the tragic circumstances of his wife's death. It's his dad, and who's played to perfection by Jeff Daniels, by the way. But in this particular season, Jimmy is struggling with abandonment issues from his dad because Paul is moving to Boston to be closer to his family, and kind of leaving everything that he knows behind. So I'm hoping that this is not the last that we're going to see of Harrison Ford, even though I think his role is probably going to be reduced at best. And I think like the big gut punch moment that we were supposed to feel in this was Alice graduating and also subsequently leaving to go to school on the East Coast. We're supposed to be rooting for Jimmy and Robin. I don't even remember her name. Sophie. That's right. Her name is Sophie in this, not Robin. That's not weird at all that those two are potentially being shipped together. However, he also breaks up with her because he just, again, this is part of his crash out routine. He crashes out about something, and then he pushes people away because he gets too invested emotionally in things, and he just doesn't want to do anything. So I kind of, not like completely over this, but like I am kind of over all of this stuff where like Jimmy needs to either like get some serious help, or they need to stop having him do the same thing over and over again. I am very curious to see next season how they're going to handle Jimmy being an empty nester and what that all that is going to entail. I'm very curious to see where the show goes, period, because lots of people, they're scattered all over the place. Sean's moved out. Gabby is engaged. Brian is moving, or not moving. They're going to Tennessee for a little while as a family. So everybody's scattered about. I'm very curious to see if Derek's health issues come to play in the future as well, because he had a pretty serious heart issue come up. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play out. I did like this season of Shrinking a lot. I don't like it as much as other seasons of Shrinking so far, but I did like it nonetheless. Next, let's go ahead and talk about Scrubs. We go from one Bill Lawrence show to another. I think that Scrubs season, I guess, one of this reboot, even though it's technically season 10, I think they did a phenomenal job of kind of bringing the show back to life and still maintaining a lot of the great things that Scrubs was originally about. I'll admit, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that they broke up JD and Elliot again. For that to be such a big part of season 8 frustrates me to no end, but whatever, it's all good. I do like Turk being this, you know, kind of tormented mentor figure where he is kind of struggling with burnout and he's dealing with the effects of, just everything that he's gone through as a black surgeon, as the chief of surgery, married life and all of that. It's all come to a head. So I like the moves that they made with JD becoming the chief of medicine. I really like that. And my God, the gut punch of a moment where they had Dr. Cox being revealed to it's not so much that it revealed that he left because he knew he was sick, but it's heavily implied at least that he knew that something was up and that leaving was kind of part of the thing that he needed to do. So for in the eighth episode, which I think kind of goes up there with some of the more emotional episodes the show has ever done, my odds season 1/10 episode 8 where JD realize or kind of sees that Dr. Cox is sick. He's diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And the thing that Dr. Cox says is that he says, "Do we think that just because we work in medicine that we get some like karma shield that says that we get to delay what's coming for all of us as long as possible?" Just the emotion that those two have, John C. McGinley and Zach Braff have is just fantastic. So I give them a lot of credit for that. So they nailed some of the more emotional moments of this. I thought the end was a little abrupt. I didn't realize that they were just doing 9 episodes this season, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. I do think it's going to get a season 2/11, so we'll see what happens, but only time will tell. But I did enjoy this quite a bit. I think that most shows doing a some type of recap or doing some type of reboot should take notice at what Scrubs did with theirs. Listen to what the audience said, but if unless and come back only if they have something more important to say. Next, we have the Pit. The Pit just ended not too long ago. I had an episode last week where I did some predictions of what I think is going to happen, and like a lot of people, I'm sure we fall prey to quite a few things that come up from like a fan cast standpoint or fan theory perspective that just did doesn't happen. And I think some of the things that happened in these final couple of episodes, I think set up the next season very nicely. But I also think that it was some of these things were a bit anticlimactic. So, for example, I think some of the conversations that Robbie had with certain people around the hospital, I think were really good. I think his conversation with Langdon and Langdon calling him out and saying, "Hey, you're just like so many other people I know that think that they don't have a problem, but they secretly do, and they're not willing to do anything to help themselves." But by far, the best conversation was between Dr. Robbie and Dr. Abbott. Dr. Abbott, sneakily the MVP of this whole season, maybe the entire show, for potentially saving Robbie's life of this because Robbie was giving off vibes that he was suicidal. And I think it is a little weird to me that he sees no problem calling out Dr. Alashimi for the very clear neurological disorder that she has that could compromise her ability to give care. And I don't see how that is any different than or any less damaging than him being potentially suicidal. Like I think that is grand hypocrisy at the highest level. However, At the same time, I'm also not a fan of how he left things with Dana, who they kind of just leave it happy-go-lucky, whatever, like nothing's happened, and Dr. Mohan, who is not going to be on the show next season. I'm not sure if she's coming back ever again, which I will be very sad if she's not. And she kind of lets Robbie off the hook in a lot of ways, and I don't think that's right. I do appreciate the fact that the big patient for this hour is this expectant mother who wants to have a natural birth. And I fully empathize with somebody who wants to have as much of a natural birth as possible simply because she said it correctly. Women have been giving birth since the dawn of time. And, yes, Abbott is correct that yes, back then there was like a huge infant mortality rate because we couldn't deliver babies safely back then, and there's interventions and various ways that a lot of these mothers can be treated with medicine if they allow it. But there's something extremely terrifying about that mom having a seizure and then them having to deliver that baby and that baby coming out bright blue. Like there was something straight up terrifying about that. So I think that was a like just a fascinating patient to end on an already very hard and stressful day in the ED. I don't think Dr. Santos, I don't think enough attention is being paid to these cutting scars that she has. I'm very concerned about how that's going to manifest itself moving forward. However, I did love that post-credit scene or during credit scene with Santos and Taylor Dearden's character. God, what is her name? Oh, this is embarrassing. Dr. King, Melissa King. That's right. Them going to karaoke and singing "You Ought to Know." Love that. So yeah, I'm a bit mixed on this particular episode of The Pit. Overall, I like the season. It's, I think, technically right now my favorite season of TV so far, but definitely not as good as season one. And I'm wondering if it's because there was no like big mass casualty event, like everything kind of ends up like kind of slightly on the hunky-dory side, but we'll wait and see. Next, let's talk about Daredevil Born Again. So we're 5 episodes in to Daredevil Born Again, and the big thing that has happened this season is they finally killed Vanessa. So it's been a long time coming, and at this point, somebody in Kingpin's inner circle, that someone that was really close to him, either him or Vanessa, had to go. And I think for me to spend an entire episode where they just show that she is still in the hospital, even though she clearly has a very serious injury. I'm not sure how I feel about this current group of people in at Disney working on things for Daredevil. I don't get it because it doesn't seem like they have the urgency that they need in order to get everything going for this show. So overall, I'm enjoying Daredevil Born Again season two. I'm not enjoying it as much as season one, which I find a problem because I also didn't enjoy season one as much as I was hoping for. We still have not gotten any defenders, so no Jessica Jones, no none of them. We have the swordsman who is now ostensibly gone and is just a glorified piggy bank. So we've got about 3 episodes left of this season, and it feels like there's still a lot to do. I'm a little concerned also that we have a looming Punisher one last kill short coming up soon, and I'm wondering if that's going to tie into anything that is going on at all with Daredevil Born Again. So we'll have to wait and see. So far I'm kind of mid on Daredevil Born Again. I'm still enjoying it, but I wish that Disney just took just as much care of Daredevil as Netflix did, because it just shows right now that they're not, and it's frustrating to say the least. Switching gears completely, let's talk about Love Story. So, Love Story is, I found out pretty quickly that Love Story is not like completely a Ryan Murphy short, but it's created by this guy Connor Hines. But it is a like true life retelling or a real life retelling of the whirlwind romance between John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Now, this is the sweet spot for me for this show because I remember when all this happened. I remember when their plane crashed, and I remember when the news came out that they died. So something like this should have been the sweet spot for someone like me, but something felt kind of off about this. I don't want to blame Ryan Murphy completely, even though my feelings for Ryan Murphy are pretty clear right now that I can't keep doing these Ryan Murphy style shows that have a lot of just similar tropes in terms of its portrayal of not only women but gay people and just everything like that too. However, I will give them credit for a couple of things. I think Sarah Pigeon as Carolyn Bessette was phenomenal. I thought she did a great job. Conversely, Paul Anthony Kelly, who plays John F. Kennedy Jr., was fine, but I don't think he's on the same level as Sarah Pigeon. It's kind of the same problem that I had with BB in Daredevil Born Again. I think the material's not giving them any favors. Yes, I will concede that. However, that's where the actor needs to come in and elevate all of this stuff. And that's not happening. And it's just frustrating, but it is what it is with that. In addition, if they're trying to get me to empathize with John F. Kennedy or like any Kennedy's plight in terms of what they have to deal with from a paparazzi or pressure or legacy or expectation standpoint, they failed spectacularly. I don't feel any empathy for any of these individuals in the Kennedy family who come from this life of privilege and they don't understand how good how much influence. I don't want to say good because I understand that there's a lot of things that they go through that is just tough to deal with. However, at the same time, it just it just feels like a lot of first world problems from rich people who don't understand the level of struggle that some of us have to go through that they'll just never understand. I think the chemistry between those two is great. I'm not sure how the Kennedys are going to feel about this. I've already heard, I've read some articles and I've read some reports that Daryl Hannah is not thrilled with how she was portrayed in the show. She comes off as a crazy lunatic of a woman who I don't understand what happened there, but okay. But this had some good moments. I loved the final episode in terms of Constance Zimmer, who plays Carolyn's mother, reminding the world that in addition to Carolyn losing herself in the malaise of being married to the Kennedys, that she also lost another daughter, which that's something that I completely forgot. And it's sad because, any loss of life in such a tragic circumstance should be acknowledged, but then the after effects of something like that, I think is just only a mother could feel a pain like that. And Constance Zimmer does a fantastic job of that. So Love Story, we'll have to wait and see whether or not this continues to, I don't know, be a thing and if it continues to be good. So we'll just wait and see what happens. Let's talk about Euphoria. I watched the first episode of Euphoria season 3. What the hell is this? This is Euphoria has jumped the shark so bad with this because part of the appeal of watching Euphoria was this was about high school. And now that we are out of high school and going through these real life situations, like I don't understand what is going on here. I'm not a huge fan that in the first episode we focus so much on Cassie and then Nate's impending wedding, which I just feel very gross about this being a thing and being the one of the main things that we're focusing on. I really think that Sam Levinson, who's the creator of this, and some of the other shows that he's been the creator of as well, whether it's Euphoria or The Idol, there's something that just feels very icky about a lot of this. And I think the way that just kind of the exploitative nature for particularly for Zendaya and for Sydney Sweeney in particular just feels gross, and I don't like it. I I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to finish this season kind of based on this first episode, but I'm going to give it a chance. I'll probably end up watching it all, but I just think where Rue is going with she gets found out and she becomes a drug mule, and then she gets involved with a guy who works at a strip club, and he runs strip clubs. Marshawn Lynch makes an interesting appearance in this. I think Marshawn Lynch is carefully carving out a pretty decent acting career for himself. So I'm excited to see where this goes from here. But one episode in, I'm just feeling gross watching this. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with this. Plus the lack of jewels, and yeah, like I wish that there was more jewels here. I wish that there was more Lexi. Even at this point, I'd rather have more Maddie in the show than Cassie or Nate. But whatever, it is what it is. I'm 2 episodes into the new season of the series Beef, and I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to pull off the magic trick that was season 1 of Beef. But my God, I'm 2 episodes in and I'm feeling so incredibly tense with both of these relationships just being so completely radioactive. I think there is just something to me about Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan together that I just really, really enjoy. They're both giving like some pretty incredible performances, and I'm really, really digging it. On the flip side, though, you also have this other couple who the whole catalyst of this is that all these people work at a country club, and Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan, they're married, they have a giant fight, and then we have Kaylee Spaney and Charles Melton. I think that's his name, Charles Melton. Sure, let's go with that. Let me see. I don't understand how IMDb is organizing this, but yeah, Charles Melton, Austin, and then Kaylee Spaney as Ashley. They record this fight, and now they're using it as leverage to try to get what they want. This is saying quite a bit about the haves and the have-nots in a country club society and how this spurns this quote unquote beef. I love season 1 and I'm really enjoying season 2, and I hope that the consistency kind of continues to go there. So I'm really excited to see what's to come with that. Next, let's talk about Invincible. Invincible season 4 is about to wrap up, coming up pretty soon. And what we have with season 4 is we get to see a lot of interaction with Mark and Nolan and just their family dynamic. I'm very curious to see how all of this is going to play out coming up in the future, because it's just really chaotic. And I think the confrontation that we see with Nolan and Spragg, yeah, I think that's his name, has been really, really palpable. And I'm very concerned that somebody is going to die. Or Thrag. I'm sorry, Thrag. So, and if I have a sneaking suspicion that Nolan is probably not going to make it out of the season, but we'll see about that, because we have spent enough time with Mark, Oliver, and Nolan to see that their relationship has kind of, improved quite a bit recently. So I think that it just feels about on par for us to have something that is just going to destroy this relationship. It does bug me a little bit that we have not done much of anything to address that. Hey, let's keep in mind Eve's still pregnant and it's been months, so is Mark going to come back and he's just going to have a kid? What? Well, what's going to happen there? So I'm very curious to see what happens there. The battle sequences have just been brutal this season, and I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this final episode that is coming up this week. So we'll see what happens. Finally, let's talk about the boys. And we're 3 episodes in to the boys' final season, and a couple of things that I do want to point out. One, rest in peace, A Train. He went out like a boss, and it really bums me out to see what happened to him. But it also shows the tremendous growth that A Train. The main reason or the main thing that causes him to die is that instead of running through someone like he did in season 1, he avoids them to save their life, and it cost him his own life. And I that is not, it's not lost on me that we have a situation where that this character has exhibited a tremendous amount of growth and just yet nothing. It sucks that nothing is going to happen with it. Soldier Boy's back, and it's showing that he's like kind of immune to this virus, but he's not fully immune. He's just like slowed down. And then the last thing is that Homelander just looks like a psychopath. But more importantly, Homelander beating the living shit out of Ryan might be one of the most terrifying things that I've ever seen in the series. Homelander's done a lot of awful stuff, but beating his son to like a pulp pretty much might take the cake. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the boys moving forward. So we'll see. But that's the rundown of all the shows that I've been watching lately. What do you think? What's something that you recommend that I watch? What's something that you've enjoyed? And, where do you disagree or agree with my takes? Let me know in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode of SPDM TV. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to anything and everything SPDM Crew, wherever you get your podcast. Join us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky at SPDM Crew. Check out our website at spdmcrew.com. Shout out to HiFlyer Creative Studios for making our awesome logo. Greatly appreciate their support. If you've got a podcast idea or you're interested in being part of the SPDM Crew as a guest or collaborating, email us at spdmcrew@gmail.com. And check out the other shows on the network. We're really proud of the work that everyone's doing. Greatly appreciate it. And check out the other shows on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. Until next time, happy watching, friends.